Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast, the show for fleet executives, HR leaders, and recruiting professionals. I'm your host, Ginger Craddock.
And I'm your host, Aaron Craddock. Each week we share actionable insights, market trends, and proven strategies to help you grow and thrive. Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Craddock, and I'm excited to have Zaheer on, Zaheer Iqbal. Zaheer is with Tyler Technologies, and then he also leads national outreach for FMCSA PSP program as a federal contractor. And so welcome, Zaheer. Glad to have you on the show.
Thank you, Aaron. Good to see you.
Yeah, and so Zaheer and I met at DECA, and then we've run into each other, I think, at TCA, ATA, and then most recently at MATS. And we just chatted. We're like, hey, Aaron, when am I going to be able to come on the Hire Truckers Podcast? And so I'm excited. I'm excited to have you on today. And I didn't know a lot about PSP, honestly, until we spoke more about it at MATS. I know it's not a new thing. I just wasn't super educated about it. And so I'm excited to hop on today and just provide more of a context of what PSP is and why it's important. And also just talk about some exciting things about like where that system's going and how the system's getting safer. And so, yeah, excited to talk about that today. So we'll start with just what is PSP, Zaheer?
Sure, but before that, speaking of MATS, don't you like the energy at MATS, Mid-America Truck Show? I love that conference.
Yeah, it picked up this year.
I know, there were a lot of people, so it's good to see those truckers, and I met so many drivers, and I talked to them about the PSP driver program. It's called the driver monitoring, or the PSP monitoring program. So good to see, meeting folks at grassroots level. Yeah, I love the energy, the vibe of Mid-America Truck Show.
Yeah. Really, I feel like for me personally, I feel like it had kind of slowed down the last couple of years that I'd been there. But then this year just seemed to have a new energy, like in terms of spot rates are up. There's a little bit of enthusiasm on the fleet side, enthusiasm on the driver side that we haven't seen in a while. And yeah, I just continue to see numbers coming out about how the industry's heating up just across the board. Like you see tender rejection rates spiking and then spot rates going up. It just seems like we're in a kind of industrial renaissance and freight's picking up and there's some excitement in the industry. And I felt like that energy was palpable amongst the vendors, amongst the drivers, even amongst, different things within FMCSA too. Just energy, excitement, enthusiasm across the board. What was your take, Zaheer, on that?
I agree. The vibe and the energy was fantastic, and a lot of great things happening in the industry. And, it's like a roller coaster, but, we are hoping for great things happening down the road. So, yeah.
Yeah, I follow the numbers really closely, like in terms of just freight and demand. I saw another thing where rail today is like up 16% year over year or something like that, like in conjunction with just freight volumes being up, like starting on the full truckload side. And so I think we're out of the great freight recession. Don't know for a fact. I think I went from cautiously optimistic to extremely bullish on the market. We never know what's going to happen, but you just have to look at the data and then also I also look at like what drivers are saying in terms of the market and like what loads they can secure and like their enthusiasm level. And I see that picking up across social media as well. And again, it's not perfect. There are pockets that are sluggish, but it's definitely the best news we've had for the carrier. And I think ultimately for the driver that compared to the last 3 years, which have been pretty hard in our industry. So.
Yep, and that's why the pre-employment screening program is so important.
Yeah, I like that segue. Because so, like, what is PSP? Just most of our audience knows, but for those that don't, like, what is PSP?
Yeah, the PSP is an FMCSA's program. It's the pre-employment screening program. and it provides you data from the roadside, a crash history for up to 5 years, inspection and violation, citation, that kind of history for up to 3 years. So MVRs, motor vehicle records, are managed by the states and they are mandatory anyway. So if you're hiring a new driver, so you need to run, it's obligatory to run the MVR anyway. So, but it is also helpful to run PSP alongside the MVR because PSP is not obligatory like the MVRs. It's still an optional program. But the data helps you because that's the data from the roadside. So MVRs records are mostly conviction history, conviction data. And convictions are very interesting, right? So that involves court of law.
But yeah, what is the difference between like PSP and MVR? Like, what are the requirements differences? Like, do you need both? Like, do fleets need both?
Well, I mean, it's a good thing to run both records at the same time because MVR, as I said, they are managed by the states and it's conviction data, and convictions need adjudication from a court of law, and or they can be reduced in severity, right? So if, say, someone has a pending violation, that violation will not show on the MVR. And if you run their PSP report, it's going to come out blank. So that's why the PSP report is important, because the data comes from the roadside regardless of conviction. So at least you can see what happened. What happened. You can see the original violation and you can ask questions, good questions, and have a meaningful conversation with the driver. Hey, on this time and date, you were pulled over and you had this violation. So tell me more about that. And even if it's a minor violation, still this provides you an opportunity to have a conversation with the driver about your culture. So it provides the hiring manager or the employer an opportunity to talk about your company culture.
That's really good. Because I think fleets, everybody's wanting, like most of the fleets I'm speaking with, like typically 500 plus truck fleets, like they're wanting that safer culture. Like, and so what I'm hearing is it's not just about, finding every little thing. It's about when you find something, you can have that conversation and cast a vision for like how important safety is and doing the right thing within your fleet. Not just, a knockout question like, hey, based on these rules, we're going to knock them out. But it sounds like more of a just conversation and opportunity to start on the right foot as you're bringing these drivers on. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, that is also one of the reasons why PSP reports exist. But you can also look for patterns. And somebody is getting, citations for severe violations, right? So you can see a pattern there. And based on that, since it's an optional program, it's up to the hiring manager whether to hire an applicant or not. It's completely up to them, but it provides you that pattern, that the data, so you can look at the data, and based on that data, the hiring manager can make a decision whether to go with the applicant or not. So if you see a pattern, so most likely, that applicant, if hired, is going to repeat. And, one bad hire can be very harmful to the company, to the company's reputation, its image, and safety, because, it's our families, right? Our communities who are over the road, and we want to make sure like we put the safest drivers in those cabs.
So walk me through a scenario of like a fleet pulls an MVR for an applicant and, may not pick something, and then a pattern that they discover that they wouldn't have discovered by running the MVR. So like, give me kind of an example of like a pattern that might be picked up on PSP that would protect the fleet from potentially making a bad hire and putting an unsafe driver on the road with their fleet and putting people at risk?
So MVR is conviction data, right? Somebody gets a citation and they want to go to the court and challenge it there. So you know how the court process goes. They can continue the case, and that will not show on the MVR unless and until it is adjudicated. And it takes time sometimes. And once that citation is finally adjudicated, since MVRs are managed by states uniquely, and each state has their own systems and their own cadence for updating their databases. So for some states, it may take up to 2 months. So you're looking at a long period. And if a citation violation that is pending, that is not going to appear on the MVR. So says some person gets fired yesterday and his buddy tells him, hey, I have a job for you at this company, come over. And he goes, applies to the job, and he gets an interview next week, right? And they run his MVR is going to come out blank because that citation is still in court and it's pending. That's why you run the PSP, because PSP is data from the roadside regardless of convictions. So you are able to see that, say someone is not completing their pre-trips, right? For say someone has a faulty brake, right? So that's a big concern. Or somebody's headlights are not working, and you see that they received a citation for that, for the faulty brakes, or the inspectors found it out during the roadside inspection. And then after a few months, you see the same defect identified during the roadside inspection. So you see a pattern, right? That this person is not taking care of the defects in the equipment. So it speaks so many things about the drivers, right? Whether the drivers are not taking care of their equipment, or the company culture, the company they work for, that they are not paying attention to the safety concern. Because, and the dispatch as well, like why the dispatch is asking them to drive an equipment with faulty brakes. So if you see a pattern there that this person has several maintenance issues and they have been ignoring it, so it's negligence. And if you hired that person, so most likely that person will repeat the same pattern in your company and will ignore or neglect the maintenance problem. So then you can, based on that, you can have a conversation with the driver. Hey, this is not our company culture. We have in-house workshop. You want to make sure you complete your pre-trip inspections, your post-trip inspections, and if you see a defect, make sure you don't drive that vehicle and you fix it. You talk about your company culture, and all these are related to safety for the drivers and the image for the company, reputation for the company, and also the nuclear verdicts. We know that they are on the rise. And the insurance costs, because one accident can be lethal to companies. It can completely shut down a company, right? If there's a nuclear verdict or big lawsuit. So that's why it always starts with the safest hiring. And the PSP data from the report, because it's data from the roadside, it provides you that data, that knowledge, that information based on which you can see the patterns and you can make informed knowledge-based decisions. So which is a win-win situation. Most likely if somebody has a clean record, clean MVR, and they've been driving for a number of years. So, and then of course, if you have a great company culture, you have trainings and you are engaged with the drivers, talking to them, so most likely, you can avoid a lot of bad incidents.
Mm-hmm. Do you notice a pattern like this? I'm just curious about this. So is it more the fleet that like has the pattern? Like, is it more typically like the fleet that has the pattern of maybe not enforcing pre-check or dispatching unsafe trucks? Does it tend to be the fleet, like when you're noticing these patterns, or is it more the individual driver in a fleet? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, so if a driver, has this pattern of not changing their headlight bulb like after one citation, or having faulty brakes, some super high risk thing, is that the driver being negligent that's going to carry that to the next fleet in most instances? Or is it a pattern where the fleet is just not prioritizing safety, doesn't have the right trainings in place, things like that?
I mean, it really depends. Sometimes there are companies out there, they don't want to take care of their equipment, and it can be the driver, it can be the safety manager, not paying attention, not doing their job. So there can be a number of reasons for it, but our job is to present the hiring manager that data, right?
Yeah.
And then they can do their own research. They can go research the company, make some phone calls. There's a lot of information on the internet. They can review, see the reviews of the companies, etc. So it's up to them to do their research, like what has actually happened, why there's this pattern. Sometimes there are good drivers in a bad company. There's also this possibility.
Do you see that pattern in the data sometimes, to where driver was with X fleet, had a bunch of citations, and then for 10 years didn't have any? Like, do you ever see those type of patterns that kind of justify that it was maybe bad fleet?
We basically don't look at the reports, randomly.
Okay.
We have a team of developers, they do their development work, and the data comes from MCMIS, which is the national database. And we just don't look at, we are very objective in that case. We
provide the facts.
Yeah, we don't assess or monitor or analyze, those patterns. We just objectively provide the data. That's the roadside data on driver X for up to 5 years. That's the crash history. And here is the inspection data. So, and it's up to the employer how to read the data and make their decisions. But it complements the MVR, because like I said, MVR is conviction data, and it takes time for the databases to be updated. The PSP database is updated monthly, and as data from the roadside, you have the original citations and violations, and you can have a meaningful conversations with the applicant during the interview. So keep in mind that PSP is only for pre-employment purposes.
It's not for disciplinary, like,
yeah,
or like after they're hired, you don't pull it again. It's just
you don't pull it again. Yeah, but the bill is in the House. They're working on it. Once that bill is passed, so the employers will be able to run PSP anytime. So
hiring CDL drivers isn't about more leads. It's about better ones. That's why serious carriers partner with Hire Truckers by Trucking Clicks. We don't sell ads. We bring clear strategy, straight talk, and a relentless focus on quality drivers. Even in a tough market, our clients see improved performance month over month by optimizing smarter and making every hiring dollar work harder. For honest insight, sharper targeting, and results that you can trust, visit truckingclicks.com or call 512-982-0816. Hire truckers by Trucking Clicks. Clarity, courage, results.
So Zaheer, that was a really interesting point. So right now, pre-employment is it like that you can only do it, pre-hire. And so what is that bill that may allow fleets to continue to improve safety, like post-hire, and like kind of how does that work?
So the bill is called Motor Carrier Safety Screening Modernization Act, HR 7261. It was introduced by Tracy Mann from Kansas and Shreys Davids from Kansas. So it's a bipartisan bill. And this allows motor carriers to continuously review safety records from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's pre-employment screening program for prospective and current drivers. So prospective and current drivers. And it enables carrier to identify safety issues earlier and provide ongoing professional development. So there are some articles out there you can research. Your audience can research them as well.
Yeah.
So that bill, we folks should support that bill. Call your representative to get bipartisan support for it. So once that bill is passed, that would be great for the industry, and the employers will have the opportunity to run PSP records during the employment of a driver.
So sometimes a driver may have an infraction or citation and the fleet doesn't even know about it. So currently, as it is, the fleet might not know about, like somehow it may be missed that driver had some sort of PSP, like something that the PSP would check, like catch.
Yeah.
But there are scenarios where the fleet doesn't, so the driver doesn't self-report and maybe it stays with the state. So there are scenarios now where the fleet may not get the full picture of what's going on with their current drivers, and then this will allow more clarity. Am I understanding that?
Well, MVRs can be run during the employment of a driver, but PSP record is run only once, and that's only for the pre-hire, right? So before hiring the driver, you run, and you need the written authorization because we follow FCRA. PSP is governed by FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act. So you need the driver's written consent to run their record, and it's done only for pre-hire purposes. But after the bill, you will be able to run the record during the employment of the driver. So say you hire someone, right? And you look at their PSP record, you don't find anything, but you don't know what happens after 6 months or 8 months. So if you run another PSP, that should provide you more information, from the roadside on that particular driver. So I think it could be helpful, if you think you hired someone and you think you need to run another record, another PSP during the employment. So could be helpful to the employer.
Yeah. It sounds like it could make our roads safer just with that just more visibility. Like, again, it's just like these things are happening one way or another. It sounds like the PSP just sheds more light on what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And the more informed a given fleet is about their drivers and safety habits, the more they can coach, the more quickly they can coach, the more they can improve their safety, and also, potentially get a driver out the door that's not a good fit for their safety culture, and maybe putting people on the road at risk, like other drivers and things like that.
Yeah, that's true. Safety is the top priority for us, and it should be a top priority for the companies as well. And the goal is to make our highways safer, so because we all share our roads and we want to make sure those big rigs, those are powerful equipments when they are on the road, we want to make sure the safest drivers are operating those equipments. Otherwise, it could be disastrous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think just because of this being just safety issues being publicized more on social media, like by the administration raising awareness on their social media accounts, and then also just the general consumer. And there was, a recent 60-minute special. Just there's more awareness about, things going on the roads, and like big accidents and things like that are getting, I feel like, more coverage, or at least I'm seeing more of it than I ever have. And then there seems to be just, a general consensus of the population. I don't have any data on that specifically, but both sides of the aisle, everybody wanting, safer roads and just for their families. And because these, can be 80, 90,000 pound thing rolling at, 65, 70 miles an hour down the highway. So it's something we should definitely think about.
Yep, that's right. I have a great respect for this, for Administrator Bars. He is so actively engaged in the industry, and I have seen him speaking at so many conferences, and believe the industry is in great hands. The industry is in safe hands, and hopefully, a lot of good things will happen down the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really encouraged seeing the Transportation Secretary Duffy show up at Matt's, and the FMCSA leaders, bars included. Just it was encouraging, and it was so cool being on the show floor. And I was like, why is everybody, the whole floor coalesced around this area? I was like, what's going on? And then Transportation Secretary Duffy came out. And there were a lot of cheers just from the driver population and company owners and things like that, just towards, again, just making, not making it a political issue, but just making our roads safer for everyone. And it's just super important. And it was cool seeing just the enthusiasm and excitement. And so I'm just thankful that leadership made an appearance at the Mid-America Trucking Show.
That's right, and it speaks volumes of the leadership passion and commitment to safety. So, and it's encouraging for us as well. When we see our leaders are so actively engaged, and they are going to all these conferences and traveling and speaking. So it also motivates us. That mm-hmm. they have such busy schedules, and they take time out to go talk to the drivers and safety directors and visit booths, different vendors. So it's personally, it's very motivating for me. It encouraged me more and more to go out and meet with safety manager and directors and hiring directors and fleets and talk to them about the pre-employment screening program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had the same takeaway. They made me, my talks with you make me more excited about safety. And then just from top level leadership too, just, I don't know how to explain it, but they just carry this energy and excitement towards making real change and making things happen, removing regulations at the same time. And then just, enforcing current things that make our roads safer. And it was just fun just seeing everybody get, the general consensus of people being excited about making our roads safer. Was just cool. And and I'm not even in, purely in the safety space. We do some coverage from a media perspective, but I'm more on the, just driver hiring and providing high quality leads to fleets. But just safety is completely intertwined, with the hiring process. PSP is done in the hiring process.
Yes, and energy is contagious, right? Mm-hmm. And passion is contagious. So when you see high energy, you sort of absorb it, right? And but we are fortunate that a lot of good things are happening in our industry, and hopefully, hopefully we can see a better future for a better future and good things happening ahead of us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. Like I mean, that's what I see. I see a future and a vision painted from the top levels of leadership and in transportation safety, and I see them showing up, and yeah, and really initiating change. And I think there are already some numbers out of how things have improved, just the things that I've seen, just from what we can track. And it'll be cool how our roads continue to get safer as that vision and enthusiasm continue to take hold across the industry. I think it gets fleet safety directors fired up and excited about it too. Just like, hey, like my job is being highlighted and celebrated by the industry and by, again, just I think the general population too.
And during my interactions, I learned that many folks who interacted with the leadership, they felt heard, that their feedback is taken seriously, and I've also learned that actual action has happened. So it's very encouraging. It's very encouraging to see all those great developments happening in our industry.
Yeah, imagine the change that's going to happen by listening well, having people feel heard, not just prescribing. Yeah, I saw that as well. I sat in a couple of the smaller sessions, they maybe had a couple hundred people in them. And afterward, the different leaders in say around safety, like came, called people up there, did a Q&A. You were I saw you in a couple of those sessions too. And yeah, just hearing, whether you agree or disagree, just hearing perspective. I heard perspective from small fleets. I heard perspective from owner operators. I heard, just perspective from different people and everything, consistently being like, hey, make sure we connect with that person and follow up. And yeah, I really saw that firsthand done really well. And that can be hard because, a lot of times people disagree with what you're doing, and just handling those things with grace, just when it, affects people's livelihoods, both on the driver side and the fleet side, for-profit fleets, just, yeah, that just has such power. So I love that you added that part, because it's like lead with vision and excitement, then listen well as leaders, and then and it's not just hearing, but it's making people feel heard, like you said.
Feel heard,
and then like you said, you're seeing the actual execution towards improving safety. So that's a cool a cool full picture of kind of what's going on in safety right now.
I mean, listening well is half leadership, right? Half of the leadership. So it's important to listen well. And that's why when I go to these conferences and I exhibit, I'm always keen to listen to our users or prospective users, so what they have to say about the PSP. And I always ask them, like, what do you think about the PSP? Anything you think, what is your wish list? What do you want to see different on the report? So, I mean, and I make sure, like, I take good notes, and then what we do, we just don't sit on those notes. I pass them on to our leadership and to our development team. And out of those, one-on-one conversation and engagement with industry folks, we have made several great enhancements to the PSP system. So it's a continuous process. That's why we go outreach, go to conferences, meet with PSP users, shake their hands, look in their eye, and say thank you to them, and listen to them what they have to say about the program. So always great feedback, and always appreciate what feedback they give to us. And I believe there's no negative feedback, If I mean, some people take it personal, but there's no negative feedback. All the feedback is positive. Because if people think or you think like this is a negative feedback, still it is not negative. It is an opportunity, I believe. It is
It's
an opportunity
constructive.
opportunity for you to build on that feedback and enhance and improve the system. And that's the goal. That's the goal, to talk about the pre-employment screening program. Hey, this program exists. It's a great program. It provides you a complete, full picture. You run the MVR, great. It's mandatory. But please run PSP alongside the MVR, so you get a full picture, like what actually happened on the roadside, so you can ask some good questions and have some meaningful conversation during the interview process.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I wish we had more time, but we do have to wrap up for today. Zaheer, I'm sorry it took us a year to get you on the show, but I'm excited that we finally made it happen. Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I really appreciate what you're doing just for the industry, through Tyler Technologies and then being the spokesperson and helping, raise awareness for PSP. I just really appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your leadership. So keep listening well, keep leading well. Really appreciate your time and appreciate your friendship. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate this opportunity. And just one last thing,
Okay, overtime.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's good.
So we have this service. It's for drivers only. It's called the PSP monitoring service. So there's no charge for it. It's free. They can subscribe and unsubscribe anytime. So the PSP monitoring service, what it does, every time there's a change to a driver's record, they can go ahead and see what has happened to their record. So it provides them alerts. If they think it's a mistake or error, they can request to fix it through the FMCSA's DataQ's system. So just that last piece I wanted to add is for the drivers only. It's a free service. They can subscribe, unsubscribe, 3 easy steps. So just wanted to put
Awesome.
it out there for the drivers. So
yeah, we'll put a link to that in the show notes for the drivers. Yeah, I really appreciate. We should also do an article on that for hiretruckers.com. On that specifically, that'd be cool. To get it out there to more drivers. So really appreciate your time today, Zaheer. Thank you, everyone. I hope y'all have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Hire Truckers podcast, the show for fleet executives, HR leaders, and recruiting professionals. I'm your host, Ginger Craddock.
And I'm your host, Aaron Craddock. Each week we share insights, trends, and strategies to help you grow and thrive. If you found value today, please share the show and leave a review. Until next time, keep building top-performing teams.